right, so I'm gonna tell a story about me moving, essentially getting scammed from my moving company. Also, I'll give you some tips on all the dumb things that I did that allowed this to happen. So let's do it. Also, I'll be cutting my hair while I do it. I got a trip coming up and last second. Let's start it out. So, a couple months back, I was getting set up to move up to Brooklyn. Looking at moving companies and seeing, because, you know, I'm moving from DC to New York. So I was like, it would be nice if I didn't have to drive myself, but at the same time, I didn't want to spend a ton of money on it. All of the moving services were in like the 22 to 26 to 2800 range. And that was more than I wanted to spend. I was like, I just don't want to spend that much money. I'll just do it myself. When I looked up U-Haul, it was somewhere in the, let's say 900 to 1,000 range. It was lower than that, but I was expecting after gas and fees and all that to be in that ballpark. That said, when you put your information into some moving companies to get quotes, they start sending them out to other moving companies and kind of just try to get you on board. So they'll just like call you or like send you emails and be like, hey, look, we've got a quote for you, but you got to call us to get the quote, yada, yada, yada. I was on a trip, had extra time in my hands, and I saw that one of the emails for a quote was on there, and it was an email for a company that I've seen on Instagram. So I was like, oh, maybe they're legit, maybe they have some low prices. The advertised price that they had on Instagram was like well within reason, like relatively low and something that I would actually be on board with. I gave them a call. They gave me a quote. The quote was like something in the 2,200 range, and I was like, no, what? I'm good. I'm straight on that. I don't really need to. I'll just do it myself. This was Two Movers Moving Company, by the way. They said, oh, wait, no. So if that's too much, we have a local person, a local group that could do it for like $1,300. And I was like, $1,300 sounds pretty dope, honestly. I was like, that sounds ideal. I could do that. They gave me the number to the other company, and I basically gave them a call right away. And I was like, let me just get it over with and see what they have to say. I call this other company. They run through their numbers, give me a quote, and the quote they give me is $1,600. And I was like, $1,600 more than $1,300. I think I'm fine. I think I'll just do it myself. It is what it is. And the guy was like shocked that I wasn't down for $1,600. And in my head, I was like, I was locked in for 13. Anything more than that, I have to go plan in my head if I'm actually into that. The moving company that I talked to said, okay, well, there's another person that was in your area that canceled, so we should be able to make that rate work, and we'll just make the rate as if you booked months ago in lieu of them. And I was like, oh, okay. As long as it's $1,300, I am cool on that. So everything gets squared away. I get the date. It's a Wednesday, the 26th, and I was like, this is gonna be dope. This is gonna be sick. Great. And I start telling people, I'm like, oh, I got a moving company for $1,300. This is gonna be pretty dope. It's only up to, from DC to New York. I've got like a studio worth of stuff, not very much at all. It's kind of sick. They said they would give me a call when they're an hour out from picking up, and they gave me a range of from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. on that Wednesday. I said, cool. Night before, I pack up all my stuff. I'm basically ready to go. I wake up a little bit early. I don't have a text at 7, like an hour before. So I was like, all right, let me give him a text and see what's good with it. The driver says that he got a delay because of some other pickup that he had to do, or some other reason he had to do. And I was like, okay, I mean, it is what it is. You know, sometimes people are late, that's life. Also, it's only $1,300, so a little bit later, it is what it is. When I get this delay, I was like, all right, what time will you be here? And the driver says, I'll probably be able to get there around 2:30. And I'm playing that out in my head. I was like, all right, so 2:30 will probably be done actually putting stuff into the truck at 4 to 4:30, and I was like, all right, that's gonna be a really rough time to travel all the way up from DC through Philadelphia into New York. Honestly, it might be the absolute worst time to do so. But I was like, hey, it's $1,300. That's life. So the guy comes actually late, somewhere around like 3 or 4. I was like, all right, let's get it going. He comes down to check out all this stuff. He's like, all right, let me see what we're actually taking. When he looks over my stuff, he goes, okay, well, this is a bit more than what we were expecting to take. So I'm gonna have to adjust the quote a little bit. Mind you, when they came in like a 10 by 26 truck, which has so much space. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be no big deal at all. Everything here is gonna be fine. It's gonna fit easily. I only have so much stuff, right? And then I was like, all right, I mean, sure, maybe if there's more stuff, even though, also mind you, I sent them a picture of everything that was going to be put into the truck and be moved a week before. So they knew everything that was going to be moved, and he was like, oh yeah, we didn't expect this bed to be here. And I was like, yeah, you did, whatever. I was like, you know what, whatever. What do you think the adjusted rate will be? And he essentially said it would be around $275 extra. And I was like, okay, $275 on top of $1,300 is like $1,575. That's all right. As long as we're getting up here, we're getting up to New York tonight, we can just get this behind me. I can start moving in. That's all I really care about. So we start to move the stuff up. I'm helping because I'm just like, all right, let's get this out of the way quickly because I'd rather be on the road and getting up there as soon as possible. About halfway through, he goes, all right, let me actually get the quote adjusted and get this all written down inside. I was like, all right, great. So this is when 50% of my stuff is on the truck. So he comes back in with the paperwork, he sits me down, and the actual quote increase is $577 more. Basically bringing my total, instead of $1,300 to around $1,877. At this point, I was like, this is so ass, and this is the worst. I'm just like pretty pissed at this point. And I was like, all right, whatever. I'm like, it is what it is. It'll be done today. Half my stuff's on there already. I'm already packed up and left. Nothing is out. I'm just ready to do this. So I start to sign, and as I'm signing, as I get like 2 pages in, the guy goes, so when do you want the delivery date to be? And I was like, what? He said, the delivery date. When would you want that to be? And I was like, I mean, today would be ideal, right? And he was like, oh, no, you didn't pay for all that space. So no. So the way this works is like, we go down in one direction, pick up a bunch of stuff from different pickup spots, and then send it back out later. So like the earliest I can get to is maybe like July 1st. So that's like 5 days later. And I was like, wow, this is the worst. I was like, this, not only did you underquote me and overcharge me, but you're also changing the conditions essentially that we talked about. I don't really know what to do at this point. They have half my stuff on the truck. I am expected to leave and move up to this place. Got all the like come in to get my keys and everything all set up for New York. And I'm just like, what can I really do at this point? So I have to like pay some more essentially. Like I put a down payment down with the, when I called the first time. And then I find out that the company that I am actually getting moved by is not the same company that I first talked to. So at this point, I'm like, all right, so I'm definitely getting cooked out of this right now.
While editing, I realized that the driver actually gave me the name of either a different moving company or a name that just doesn't associate to the actual company, because when you try to look up the Fast and Efficient Moving LLC, you'll get a company that has actually decent reviews, but if you use the phone number that they give you, you'll get the bad reviews of the Always Strive and Prosper LLC.
Here's the bit of knowledge I have for you guys. If you ever are moving somewhere and you get any sort of paperwork that says that there's a moving brokerage company, do not sign anything. Do not agree to any of that. That means that they don't actually move your stuff, so they're not accountable to anything. They just license it out to someone else who will then move your stuff. And 100 times they will be so bad, so the worst, so backhanded and schemy that you just will be so angry with yourself for what you've gotten yourself into. So at this point, I'm like, all right, it is what it is. I'll have my DJing equipment. I'll have 3 days, 4 days of stuff. I have a friend who lives up in New York anyway. I'll just, kick it with him for a little bit. I explained it to him. He was like, all right, it is what it is. You got a place to stay. Shouts to Josiah. Needed that. So I go up and I'm just essentially waiting. I'm like, all right, 5 days, July 1st. I can do this. It is what it is. I use this time to start hitting Facebook Marketplace, figuring out what I actually need in my apartment that I don't have, and kind of working with it from there. After 4 days or so, I'm told like I should get some sort of information about when they're coming, like the day or two before. The night before, I tried to give a call to this company and say, hey, so I haven't got an update about you guys coming tomorrow, essentially. They don't pick up the night before, but I was like, all right, maybe it's a Sunday, so maybe they just don't work on Sundays. That's fair. It is what it is. I call them the next day at 8 a.m. Again, they don't pick up, and I was like, all right, that's kind of weird. So whatever. Push it off, call them at 11, and I get this lady on the phone. She's kind of dismissive off the rip. I was like, hi, how are you doing? I'm like, my name is Siobhan Morris. I'm getting moved by your company. And she's just like kind of dismissive about it. Then I was like, all right, so do I have any information about when you guys are coming and dropping off my stuff? And she like looks it up and she goes, oh, okay, so yeah, your stuff is in Austin. And I was like, Texas? Why? Why is it in Texas? She was like, oh yeah, don't even worry about it. Like it's like right when they start loading it on the truck, it doesn't take very long at all. And I was like, I don't think the loading time onto the truck is my issue. I think the fact that it's 2 days away is a problem because you said July 1st. So what's in the ETA? Like when should I be expecting this? And this lady was just like, oh, we don't really, I can't tell you. And I was like, you can't tell me when I'll be receiving my things. At this point, I'm getting increasingly livid over the whole situation. I'm fuming, politely fuming. And I was like, all right, this is the worst. But what I can do, because they obviously won't help me, let me call the original group that I would talk to. Mind you, this original group, I didn't say this earlier, the original group name is called American Movers Direct. American Movers Direct. I was like, hey, maybe they're useful, right? Give them a call. I'm like, hey, the company you licensed me out to essentially has my stuff in Austin and will not give me an ETA of when it'll be up to me. They're like, oh, okay, all right, we'll look into it. They sent an email, get back to me, and they're like, all right, well, they say they can't really figure it out. And I was like, yeah, that's not okay. That's not fine. I need to know when I will have my stuff, if at all, right? And then at like 11 or 12 at night, they sent me a message saying it should be there in the next 2 to 4 days. And I was like, weird range, but at least it's something. So, July 4th, I'm hanging out with a couple friends at a little barbecue, and I get a text or call at 5:30 saying, hey, I'll be there in an hour. So I immediately get up from whatever I'm doing, head over to my apartment. The truck picks and comes up in the next couple minutes. Great. Mind you, it's the same driver as before. He looks tired, but I'm not really having it. Previously, when I first got my stuff picked up, he kind of implored me to give him a tip because they make most of their money off tips or something. And I was like, you know what? It's not his fault, right? He's not the reason why I'm getting cooked right now. And then I come to realize he's part of the reason I'm getting cooked right now. I don't want anything to do with any of you guys. So we start to move my stuff in. As we move my stuff in, I notice just little nicks, little poorly taken care of goods of mine. And naturally, I'm not very happy about it, but my stuff it seems like all of it's here. And then when we get to the last thing I have, which is a desk that I bought a couple years ago, it's like a $500 desk. When I get to the desk, I realize the desk is in more pieces than when I gave it to them. And what happened was this moving company ripped the legs off my desk and then just stacked it up in there. And I was like, why is this broken? The driver was like, oh, they probably just did that to make it easier to stack. And I was like, that's not fine. He's like, yeah, you could probably just, I was like, no, I can't. He's like, oh, you're right. There's a procedure for when something's broken and you kind of like can get some money back based on the weight of the object. First of all, it's the worst law of all time. It's like 25 cents per pound of material, which is just useless. But at least I'll get some sort of money from this desk. Don't expect it to be much, but it is what it is. When I try to call them, they just don't pick up. Right? And I was like, odd. Maybe it's just because it's July 4th. So I call them the next day, also don't pick up. And then I call the original American Movers Direct, and they don't pick up. Basically, I get like, not even like the ringing, just like straight no.
Well, I tried to connect you.
And I was like, oh, these guys. Oh, okay. I see what's happening now. So I give them a call from my work phone, obviously, different number, and then they immediately pick up.
Please hold while I try to connect you.
Moving, how can I help you?
Hello, my name is Siobhan Morris. It seems like you guys are not answering my phone calls.
Okay, how can I help you?
Oh, peculiar. I talk to them. I say, hey, the company that you lined me up with, beyond being super late and overcharging me, they also broke the legs off my desk. So what can we do about this? And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're super sorry that happened. We'll send you a link to the claim service so you can make the claim. I was like, oh, bet. Mind you, coming into this last call, I was like, I don't like how I was treated during this. The first group, I sent money through Venmo, and I was like, I'm gonna dispute this Venmo charge because this is not what it was described to me on the phone. Not at all. I was like, this is cap. So I dispute it, and while I'm trying to get my claim in, the guy was like, oh wait, actually I see here that you disputed our Venmo charge. So like the claim can't go through until you like remove that. And I was like, oh yeah, for sure. Obviously I'm not gonna remove it immediately. I'm gonna wait till the claim goes through or any sort of information there. These guys have proven to be very unscrupulous actors, and it's a great word. So I don't trust them at all at this point. When I get the email for the claim information, and then it starts giving me an error like, oh no, you have to give me different information. Mind you, all the information they're asked for is directly on the contracts that we signed. I am putting all the same information, and they're like, oh, sorry, it's just not working. And I was like, oh wow, real convenient, it's just not working right now. And then after I email them directly a couple times, they're like, oh, actually, we just don't work with this vendor for our claims. So tough. And I was like, oh, they did it again. Those rascals, they did it again. So not only did they underquote me, overcharge me, deliver my stuff late, pass me off to another company that broke the legs off my desk, they also tried to scheme me out of a claim by giving me an email that like a website that does not actually work for the claim. These are the worst people in the world at this point in my eyes. I'm not a very vindictive person, but I'm just angry at this point. So after some time, I was just like, since this is gonna happen, let me just hope, fingers crossed for this Venmo charge to go through. This Venmo dispute to go through. And then a couple days later, the American Movers Direct calls me back and they say, hey, so are you gonna like cancel this dispute or like we're gonna win? It's like, well, I'm gonna try anyway. I'm just like, I don't trust you guys at all. I'm not gonna like just withdraw this. And then a couple of more days later, then they call me back on like a Sunday at like 11 p.m. That's super late. And the guy's like, we're about to submit our documentation. So like, do you want to remove it? Because if you don't, Venmo might just nuke your account essentially. And I was like, no, I'm not gonna remove it. And he hangs up immediately. From there, honestly, the story doesn't have a happy ending. From there, at this point, I've been underquoted, overcharged, delayed on getting my stuff, broken delivery, claim scam, and then icing on the top, Venmo denied my disputed cost. They said, "Oh, well, sorry," and there's not really anything you can do after that. So I was like, "You know what? I hated everything about this, but at least the littlest bit of a learning moment is I can tell other people not to get cooked. And here are the steps that I think I could have taken to avoid this whole situation. For one is definitely try to get advice from other people about where they've gotten successful moves from. Definitely way better than looking it up online. Two, if you do look it up online, check the reviews of whoever you're talking to. The issue I had was I went from my email to calling someone to taking what that person from the phone said directly and then being on like all right, so we can get this locked in right now kind of deal. And I was like, oh, this is how messed up could a move really be? Obviously really bad. So look up reviews. If you look up the reviews, they're horrible for this company. It was an oversight. I thought people were not as bad as they could have been. 3 was the one I gave a little bit earlier, where if you're working with a mover and there's a brokerage, like a mover broker kind of deal, run away. They're not worth your time. They're the worst. All this to say, I hate American Movers Direct, Two Movers Company for giving me the recommendation there, and also Fast and Efficient Movers. That was the one. That's what they label themselves as, fast and efficient movers, moving, something like that. And then I don't even know, it's just some sort of shell company. And upon further research, it seems like these companies just create other shell versions of these companies and just shift the blame around so they never get caught with anything. So this was a harrowing experience for me. I hated it. It was the worst. I hope you never have to go through it, but those are the tools to not go through it. Have a great one. Here's the finished cut, by the way.